The pirate crew roared with savage delight, their guttural cheers echoing through the gutted remains of the storage depot. At the heart of the chaos stood Varnak, towering over the debris with unrateable satisfaction. In his clawed grip, he held a hostage's datapad, his slitted golden eyes scanning the message flashing across the screen. Human forces inbound. Varnak's lip curled into a snarl that might have been a grin. His immense reptilian body, nearly 3 meters of coiled muscle and armored scales, seemed to darken under the overhead lights. Forest green mottled with streaks of gold shimmered across his skin like a living war banner. His elongated jaw, filled with curved ivory teeth, parted slowly, a low growl rumbling from his chest. This was the war-born commander of the Drake Raiders, ancient, cunning, and merciless. All around him, trembling figures huddled in makeshift bindings, dozens of the Kyrians, a race of delicate, tunnel-dwelling beings barely reaching Varnak's waist. Their pale, nearly translucent skin shimmered pink under the warehouse lighting, and their oversized obsidian eyes blinked rapidly, struggling to adjust. They had backed the wrong side, allying with humanity during its frontier expansion. Now, they would suffer the cost of that allegiance. Varnak walked among them like a prowling apex predator, his gaze a silent verdict. Betrayal would not go unpunished. Captain Varnak, rasped Drael, his second-in-command, holding out a second datapad. Behind him, a younger raider with copper-hued scales, Selnor, carried 2 more. The same warning, sir. Multiple devices. The message is spreading. Varnak's thick tail lashed the air, the barbed tip striking a cargo container with a hollow clang. It could be disinformation, he muttered. A desperate trick. Even if it's not, does it matter? He turned and pointed toward the shattered skyline visible through the reinforced glass. Smoke still rose from the residential sector of the colony, a monument to their orbital strike. The humans here never stood a chance. Their defenses crumbled before they could even aim. He kicked aside the twisted remains of a turret, its melted barrel a symbol of their futility. And these Kyrians barely tried to run, just curled up and waited to be dragged out. But Captain, Selnor hesitated, those humans? They were civilians. Varnak's eyes flared with sudden fire. Load. The ships, he bellowed, his voice rattling the steel beams above. Every moment we linger costs us treasure. Without hesitation, the crew sprang back into motion. Inside the hangar, the chaos turned to rhythm. 100 Drake pirates working in brutal harmony. Exosuits groaned as they hauled heavy refinery cores and stripped down mining rigs. Chains of pirates passed crates hand to hand. Data cores, medical stockpiles, crates of high-density alloys, all flowing into the bellies of their waiting ships. At the center, Varnak's flagship, the Wormfang, loomed like a dark cathedral, its cargo holds yawning wide as they swallowed the spoils of conquest. Smaller strike craft flanked it, their scarred hulls testaments to countless plundered systems. Outside the docking bay's energy barrier, 2 sentry vessels floated silently, weapons ready, engines hot. Varnak prowled the hangar floor like a restless warlord, pausing only to inspect loot or bark corrections. Mind those containment tanks, he snapped at a trio wrestling with a sealed cylinder. Crack one open, and you'll be glowing by next cycle. His voice carried authority. Earned through decades of frontier raids, this colony had yielded far more than expected. Rare tech, untapped mineral veins, even relics from pre-expansion Earth. They'd struck gold, and they knew it. Drael returned to Varnak's side, 70% loaded, less than an hour to full departure. Varnak's twin tongues flicked the air, tasting data like scent. Tell the nav team. 3 randomized jumps before we hit Darkrift Station. Already done, Drael replied. Varnak gave a low grunt of approval. The fence at Darkrift asked no questions and paid well for anything even vaguely human-made. As for the Kyrians, exotic labor always fetched a price. Some crew might even keep 1 or 2 as pets. The thought made Varnak chuckle darkly. Creatures that once dared to aid humanity now polishing the boots of their enemies. He was just turning to select a few prisoners for personal reassignment when the warehouse lights flickered. At first, it seemed like a power fluctuation. Then came the glow. Not from the lamps, but from the ceiling itself. Dozens of brilliant white circles ignited in a silent, chilling synchrony, each 2 meters wide, forming perfect rings across the metal ceiling. The glow intensified without heat, without sound. No dust fell, no alarms rang. Just light. "What in the void?" someone whispered. Then, silence broke. The circles vanished, leaving behind flawless holes punched through steel and concrete. For a heartbeat, no one moved. And then, the heavens fell. Dark canisters dropped like thunderbolts through the glowing holes, slamming into the warehouse floor with metallic thuds that echoed like war drums. Dense smoke erupted from their vents, swallowing the room in a choking fog, visibility collapsing to barely an arm's length. Then came the shrill whine, rising, piercing, until it fractured into a wave of sharp, stuttering cracks. Stun grenades. Their photonic blasts lit the haze with bursts of white, burning through optic nerves and reducing raiders to blind, flailing silhouettes. Through the smoke, shadows moved, bipedal, broad-shouldered, wrapped in matte black armor that devoured the light around it. Human shock troops descended silently on gravity cords, weapons sweeping in lethal arcs before they even touched ground. The distinct crack of rail rifles broke through the haze, and a raider standing beside Varnak collapsed, a fist-sized hole punched clean through his chest. "Ambush! Human forces!" someone shrieked, panic splintering through the chaos. Varnak didn't hesitate. While most of his crew fired blindly or screamed orders into failing comms, he dropped low, tail lashing for balance. His instincts, honed by decades of bloodshed, took over. There was only one goal now: escape. The Wormfang waited just beyond the tunnel, 100 meters of exposed ground. If he could get there, fire up the thrusters, he could be gone before the humans locked him down. Let the others buy him time with their lives. He lunged forward in a four-limbed sprint, his claws clattering against the deck as plasma bolts and kinetic rounds sliced through the air around him. Behind him, battle exploded. Railgun cracks, plasma bursts, screams in 4 languages. One human soldier materialized directly in his path. Varnak didn't slow. He dropped his head and barreled forward like a meteor, smashing the soldier aside with brutal force. The man flew into a crate and didn't get up. 60 meters. The loading ramp of the Wormfang was still lowering, steam curling from its struts like a siren's call. A few of his crew had the same idea, bolting toward the ships, but most didn't make it. Human fire was too precise, too fast. The fog was thinning now, revealing the grim ballet of violence as 2 squads swept the room like a black tide, coordinated, ruthless. 40 meters. A flash detonated near his face. The concussion spun him sideways, colors pulsing in his vision. He shook it off and forced himself onward. 20 meters. So close now. He could already hear the hum of the ship's core, taste the coming freedom. Just a few more strides and the impact came from above. A soldier dropped like a meteor, jetpack howling, and slammed into him with bone-shattering force. Varnak hit the floor hard. He twisted, tried to lash with his tail, but it was already pinned. A booted knee pressed into his spine while gloved hands, cold, inhumanly strong, twisted his wrists and forced them together. High-tensile carbon restraints clicked into place, coiling like intelligent serpents around his limbs. He tried to activate the hidden plasma blade in his prosthetic claw, but nothing happened. The system was dead, deactivated. The human had known, had anticipated. "We've got a big one," the soldier called, voice crackling through helmet comms. "Commander Class, he's trying to run." Varnak thrashed, but the restraints tightened with mechanical indifference. His attacker stood, jetpack hissing, and hauled the massive Drake upright with surprising ease. "Move," they commanded, dragging him back toward the center of the warehouse. The smoke had cleared now, unveiling the battlefield's endgame. Drake bodies were scattered like trash, most felled by clean, clinical shots. Of the 100 pirates who had begun the raid, barely 30 remained. On their knees, hands bound, horns lowered. Human soldiers moved among them with brutal efficiency, checking cuffs, like tagging loot, tending to wounds only if it suited their orders. And there, off to the side, stood the Kyrians. Once prisoners, now witnesses. Their dark eyes locked on Varnak, not in joy, not in pity, but in cold, measured satisfaction. One of them still clutched a datapad, the same that had delivered the warning he'd ignored. They'd known. Somehow, they'd known. What? What will happen to me? Varnak rasped as he was shoved to his knees beside his remaining crew. More human troops arrived, setting up mobile scanning units, processing stations, digital archives to catalog their victory. "I have rights," he snarled. "Under the Treaty of Kalos, I demand." His captor didn't even look at him. They just checked their rifle, turned back toward their squad, and muttered a single word: consequences. The words sank like iron into the silence, and for the first time since he'd become a pirate, Varnak felt something new, something alien: fear. He had raised colonies, shattered families, enslaved entire populations, and always escaped into the void. But now, the void had answered, and it had a human face.